Most men talk. Few men speak with impact. They throw out compliments, jokes, clever lines, hoping to get attention, hoping to get validation. But women don't respond to noise. They respond to alignment. They respond to a man who knows what to say, not because he memorized a script, but because his words carry weight. There are words that don't just impress her, they ground her. Words that break the loop of superficial connection and make her pause, feel, and lean in. These are the magic words not because they're manipulative, but because they're rare. They come from clarity, presence, power, the kind of man who says little, but every word matters. If you're done chasing women and ready to draw them in through silence and precision, like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and comment below. My words reflect my inner strength. Let's uncover the magic words that don't try to win her over. They make her feel she's already losing you. Number 1, the 3 words that make her trust you instantly. You've been taught to speak more, joke more, and prove yourself endlessly to win her attention. But what if I told you the most powerful thing you could say is almost nothing at all? There comes a moment when she's not looking for a solution, not a compliment, not a punchline. She just wants to know, can you feel what she feels without trying to fix it? In that moment, one simple phrase slices through the noise. I understand, not as a trick, not as a defense, but as a declaration of your calm presence, of your quiet, stoic power. This isn't about becoming passive. It's about becoming impenetrable. When she throws her emotional storm at you, frustration, sadness, or confusion, most men panic. They try to soothe, solve, or silence, but not you. You sit there like a mountain. You say little. And then when the tension peaks, you release the words that most men are too afraid, too reactive, too prideful to say. I understand. This moment rewires everything. It tells her you aren't here to dominate her feelings. You're here to witness them without fear. You give her space, but stay grounded. That is the essence of masculine presence. You're not trying to win. You're not trying to escape. You're holding the line within yourself. Now, most men believe saying this phrase is weakness. If I say I understand, won't she think I'm just agreeing blindly? But that's where they're wrong. It's not about agreement. It's about acknowledgement. You don't need to agree with her thoughts. You only need to stand with her emotions. That's what separates the stoic man from the reactive boy. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When she's spiraling, don't become her chaos. Become her calm. And here's the truth no one tells you. When you speak from presence, your words carry weight. Even a whisper becomes thunder when it comes from a man who knows himself. So when you say, I understand, you're not conceding. You're claiming your space. You're saying, I don't need to change this moment. I simply choose to be here fully with you. She won't always know why she feels safe around you, but she will. And that's because your energy says more than any clever line ever could. Now speak out and comment below. I am her calm in the storm. Number 2, the 2 words that end every argument before it begins. Every man has been there, standing across from a woman, the air thick with tension, her voice rising, your heart racing, both of you trapped in a silent war of pride. And you think, how do I fix this? But what if fixing it wasn't the answer? What if the way to win was not to fight at all? Say this with quiet strength and watch her entire energy shift. You're right. Not as surrender, not as sarcasm, but as an expression of mastery over your ego. Most men hear those words and flinch. They see it as giving up power. But here's the truth. Those 2 words spoken from a place of self-control are a weapon sharper than any comeback. They stop the emotional escalation before it begins. You don't say them to please. You say them because you can, because you're not desperate to be right. That's what makes you powerful. When she's emotional, she's not looking for you to defend your logic. She's reading your energy. If you need to be right, you become reactive. If you can give her validation without losing your center, you become magnetic. It's a paradox. The man who doesn't need to win the argument often wins her heart. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you say you're right, you're not reacting, you're responding with clarity. You're choosing connection over ego. Psychology backs it up. Women wired for emotional safety interpret validation as intimacy, not because you're submitting, but because you're strong enough to hold her reality, even when it's messy, even when you disagree inside. You create space not to lose yourself, but to allow her storm to pass without needing to shut it down. Your right flips the script. It disarms defensiveness. And in her eyes, you suddenly become the man who doesn't crumble under pressure. The one who can listen not just to her words, but to her heart. Imagine what that says about you. It says you're not insecure, you're not reactive, you're not threatened, you're simply grounded. And a grounded man is irresistible. She won't remember your defense, she will remember your calm. So next time the argument simmers, stop, breathe, and say the words most men are too afraid to utter. You're right, because real power is silent. Real power lets go of needing to win and ends up with everything that matters. Now comment below, I choose presence over pride. Number 3, the sentence that makes her chase you without knowing why. She's silent. Maybe she pulled back. Maybe she's unsure. Maybe she just needs time. And most men, they panic. They flood her with messages, explanations, and emotional pleas. But not you, because when she hesitates, you don't chase. You lean back and calmly say, "Take your time." It sounds simple, almost too gentle to carry weight. But that phrase, when delivered with composure, radiates an energy most women never encounter. Non-attachment rooted in confidence. You're not saying it to distance yourself. You're giving her space because you don't need her decision to validate your worth. And that makes her need you more. You see, women live in a world where most men rushing to define the relationship, rushing to fix discomfort, rushing to avoid rejection. That pressure suffocates her. But when you give her room to breathe, when you say take your time with serenity, suddenly you become the air she can't get enough of. Stoicism teaches this principle through autarkia, a state of self-sufficiency. Seneca said, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. When you lack desperation, you possess what every man wants." Emotional leverage. Psychologically, this taps into the scarcity principle. When something is rare, it becomes valuable. When a man doesn't demand attention, he becomes mysterious. And in the feminine mind, mystery breeds desire. This isn't a manipulation, it's presence. You're communicating. You matter, but I won't lose myself waiting for you. You're not an anxious boy needing her love. You're a centered man extending freedom, knowing full well your value isn't determined by her timeline. And what happens? She begins to wonder about you. She replays your stillness. She feels drawn not to the silence, but to the power behind it. Because your lack of urgency shows that you are already full. That fullness is what makes you unforgettable. Most men will never understand this. They'll chase push pressure, and in doing so, they become predictable, disposable, and emotionally noisy. You, on the other hand, you drop 3 words, take your time and walk away without fear. Because you know, if she's meant for you, space won't break the bond, it'll amplify it. So the next time she pulls back, do nothing but leave her with the echo of your composure. Let the silence speak. Let your patience seduce. Let your absence intrigue. Now speak out and comment below. I radiate patience, not pressure. Number 4. Why silence wins where words fail. You think you need to say more. You think you need the perfect message, the clever comeback, the passionate monologue. But the truth, it's not what you say. It's who you are when you say nothing at all. The power isn't in the phrase, it's in the stillness that surrounds it. When you whisper, "I understand," when you breathe. You're right when you say, "Take your time and then hold your silence." What you're really doing is transmitting your energy. And energy doesn't lie. A man who is full inside doesn't chase. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't need to win the moment. He trusts his gravity. That's what women feel, not the sentence, not the logic. The gravity, the emotional weight of a man who doesn't beg to be chosen. Stoicism teaches that all control begins within. Marcus Aurelius didn't preach dominance, he preached clarity. He didn't react to chaos, he embodied order. You're here to do the same. Each of the three phrases is a doorway, but they only work when you stop standing in the way. Don't perform them, become them. Let "I understand" be the echo of your grounded presence. Let "your right" be the signal of your secure identity. Let "take your time" be the silence of your fulfilled masculinity. The paradox: when you stop trying to get her to feel something, she feels everything. Why? Because in a world of noise, your stillness is deafening. In a world of men begging to be seen, your ability to see her without demanding anything in return is what leaves a permanent mark. This is not about magic words. This is about becoming a man of rare energy, the kind that doesn't fluctuate with approval, doesn't collapse under pressure, and doesn't fear being alone. That kind of man doesn't just attract women, he inspires them. He teaches them through action that love is not possession, it's presence. So next time you're tempted to speak to prove your worth, don't. Let your silence carry the message. Let her come to you. And if she doesn't, let her go with peace. Because you understand something most never will. The man who walks in silence walks in strength. Now comment below. My silence speaks louder than approval ever could. Number 5. How it's okay turns you into a safe haven. She just made a mistake. She opened up about something embarrassing. Or maybe she overreacted and feels ashamed. In that fragile moment, most men either downplay it, don't worry about it, or worse, ignore it. But when you look her in the eyes and say calmly and firmly, "It's okay, everything shifts," this isn't about being a rescuer. It's about being a container, someone strong enough to hold space for imperfection. You say it not to fix her, but to let her feel safe in her chaos. That simple phrase, if spoken with stillness and conviction, becomes an anchor. Most people seek validation, but deeper than validation is permission, the permission to be flawed, to be human. When you offer that without judgment or agenda, she feels something rare: relief, respect, reverence. Many men believe they must teach, correct, or react. But Stoicism teaches you something else. Hold, observe, be unmoved, not unfeeling. As Epictetus taught, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. By saying, "It's okay," you suspend judgment. You embody acceptance, not as surrender, but as strength. From a psychological lens, this taps into the need for emotional attunement and secure attachment. "It's okay" regulates the nervous system. It's a balm, not a bargain. No neediness, no conditional approval, just presence. And in that presence, you become unforgettable, not because you were flashy, but because you were safe. You didn't run, you didn't shame, you stood still and she could breathe again. Now comment below. My calm is stronger than chaos. Number 6. How I'm here creates emotional gravity. Sometimes she won't speak. Sometimes her silence is louder than any scream. And in those moments, words become fragile. Most men panic. They demand explanations, try to coax her out with logic or jokes. But not you. You just say, "I'm here." That's it. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but it's powerful. You've just placed a flag of presence in her storm. No chasing, no pushing, just presence, and presence is rare. What you don't say speaks louder than any performance. When she feels your stillness unshaken, undistracted, and unwavering, something deep in her exhales. She no longer has to perform. She can be. The modern world trains you to react, but Stoicism teaches you to remain. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." When you say, "I'm here," you're not just physically present, you're anchored. She feels that. She trusts it. Psychologically, this builds emotional resonance. Women are wired to detect emotional safety not through gifts, but through signals of non-reactivity. When she knows you won't abandon her in the silence, your value multiplies. Not because you entertain her, but because you witness her. You're not a hero, you're a presence. And that's rarer than anything else she's ever encountered. Now speak out. I don't chase storms, I anchor them. Number 7. How that makes sense diffuses resistance instantly. Disagreement is natural, but the way you respond determines whether the moment turns into a battlefield or a bridge. When she expresses something you don't agree with, your instinct might be to correct, explain, or argue. But when you look her in the eyes, breathe, and calmly say, "That makes sense," you collapse the distance. You're not saying she's right. You're saying you hear her logic, that you're not threatened, that your ego doesn't need to win this. In that moment, your masculinity shines. Stoic strength isn't about crushing opposition, it's about transcending it. Like Epictetus taught, you always own the option of having no opinion. That's the essence of power. You don't need to disagree because your truth isn't afraid of hers. Psychologically, this phrase disarms defensiveness. Her guard drops, her nervous system calms. She's no longer in survival mode. She's in connection mode. Suddenly she's listening back, curious about your point of view. And that's when the real conversation begins. You're not a man who fights to be heard. You're the man who listens so deeply she finds herself lowering her weapons without realizing it. Your calmness becomes contagious. Now speak out and comment below. My peace doesn't argue, it understands. Number 8. The power of "that's fair," turning conflict into respect. She accuses, she reacts, she points out something you didn't do, something you forgot, something that hurt her. Your heartbeat rises, your pride wants to jump in, but then you pause and simply say, "That's fair." In just 2 words, you show what most men never dare to show: emotional maturity. You're not defending, you're not justifying, you're acknowledging. She doesn't want you to beg, she doesn't want you to grovel, she wants to feel like her emotions matter. And when you say, "That's fair," you're not giving in, you're leveling up. You're showing that you can take accountability without collapsing. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom isn't just in what you say, it's in how you don't flinch when truth is spoken. "That's fair" is a truth mirror. It says, "I see your pain. I'm not afraid of it. I'm strong enough to own my part." Psychologically, this phrase creates balance. It stops escalation. It shifts the dynamic from opposition to understanding. You become the grounded masculine presence she can trust even when emotions are high. This isn't submission, it's self-command. And that difference is what makes her look at you with new eyes, not as a boy reacting, but as a man leading. Now comment below. I lead through stillness, not defense. Number 9. The subtle art of saying that makes sense, creating instant connection. She's venting, she's unpacking the chaos of her day, the tangled thoughts, the emotional swirl you don't fully understand. But instead of interrupting, advising, or questioning her logic, you meet her with 3 calm words. That makes sense. In that moment, you become her sanctuary. You're not trying to fix her world. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply letting her know, "I see how you got there. I see you." This phrase disarms. It softens her guard. It tells her that her emotions are not too much or too dramatic, but valid, natural, and safe in your presence. This is Stoicism in action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Put yourself in their shoes. If you understood them fully, you would forgive all." Saying that makes sense is you, stepping into her world not to lose yourself, but to understand without judgment. Psychologically, this taps into emotional validation, a cornerstone of secure attachment. Women open up not when they feel impressed, but when they feel understood. And no phrase is more disarming than one that tells her she's not crazy for feeling what she feels. When you say, "That makes sense," you don't lose your power, you magnify it. Because only a grounded, confident man can let go of the need to be right and choose to connect instead. Now comment below, "I understand," without needing control. Number 10. The magnetic pause. How silence becomes seduction. You think it's your words that pull her in, but often it's the silence between them that keeps her intrigued. When you speak with intention and then pause, when you allow space for her to feel, to reflect, to lean into your presence, you become magnetic. Not because you say more, but because you leave room for her curiosity to awaken. Most men rush. They fill every gap with explanation, with justification, with nervous energy. But a Stoic man knows the power of restraint. He knows that silence, when paired with grounded energy, communicates. I am not here to chase. I am here to be. In that silence, you say 1,000 things. I'm not afraid of stillness. I don't need to convince you. I value this moment enough not to clutter it with noise. This is presence in its purest form. Seneca taught that he who is brave is free. And there's a rare bravery in letting your energy speak louder than your words, especially in a world addicted to noise. From a psychological standpoint, this activates tension, not anxiety, but intrigue. Women are wired to respond to mystery, and a man who isn't rushing to explain himself becomes a puzzle she wants to solve. Next time you're tempted to speak, try the pause. Let her step into the space you've created. Let her feel the gravity of your presence. Now speak out and comment below. My silence speaks louder than my need to impress. Number 11. The power of not needing her to be happy. She wants to feel chosen, not needed. There's a difference, and it's everything. When your happiness depends on her mood, her reply, her validation, you've already lost the silent power that makes you attractive. But when you radiate peace from within, when your joy is rooted in your purpose and presence, not in her approval, you become irresistible. Most men unknowingly create pressure. They say, "I miss you," but what she hears is, "I'm empty without you." They text first, wait anxiously, and overthink every word. She doesn't feel wanted, she feels responsible for your emotional state. That's not love, that's burden. But when you don't need her to be okay, when you are okay, regardless, she relaxes. She feels safe to open up, to explore, to desire. Because your emotional self-sufficiency is proof that you are the foundation, not the storm. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The same applies to emotional wealth. Needing less makes you more valuable. Psychology calls this secure attachment, a man who is whole before the relationship doesn't create anxiety within it. He gives her space to be herself without fear of being consumed. So here's the truth she won't say out loud. She dreams of a man who chooses her with freedom, not desperation. Now comment below, "I choose connection, not dependency." Number 12, the silent pause that makes her lean in. In a world full of noise, the man who knows how to pause holds more power than the one who rushes to speak. Most men try to fill every silence with jokes, compliments, or explanations, afraid that if they don't say something, she'll lose interest. But you, when you pause, when you let silence breathe, she leans in. She wonders what you're thinking. She starts to feel your gravity. You don't talk to impress. You speak to reveal something deeper, and sometimes that depth comes not from your words, but from your restraint. Imagine this. She questions, you teases you, maybe even challenges your opinion. Instead of reacting, you take a breath. You look at her calm, composed. That pause, short but full of presence, disarms her. It tells her, I'm not shaken, I'm not performing, I'm here. Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In this case, the best way to win her respect is not by out-talking, but by out-presencing. Psychologically, the pause creates space for tension, and tension is what fuels attraction. Silence used right isn't empty, it's charged. It's masculine, it speaks without needing to convince. So next time you're tempted to explain yourself, defend yourself, or impress her, pause instead. Let her feel the stillness. Let her curiosity rise. That's when you become unforgettable. Now speak out and comment below. My silence speaks louder than their noise. You came here looking for magic. Now you realize the real magic isn't in the words. It's in the man behind them. Because charm fades. Looks fade. But a man who speaks with calm clarity, who doesn't rush, doesn't over-explain, doesn't seek approval. He stays in her mind, not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't say. Now you have the tools, not lines to memorize, but truths to embody. Because when your words match your presence, when you speak not to impress, but to express grounded certainty, she listens, she feels, she remembers. If you're ready to keep mastering the art of attraction without noise, like this video, subscribe and comment below. I speak less but mean more. Walk sharp, speak clear, because the man who controls his words controls the room.